It's time to take a ride on the Common Sense Express. Now, here's your host, a wealth of information, ladies and gentlemen, Mary Souza.
Hi, and welcome to Heads Up Radio. Back in March, we had a show on the topic of jobs, and it has been a very popular podcast on our website. I know a lot of people are very interested in it, which really reaffirms that people around here are still focused on finding good and better jobs. Well, today we're here, and I'm very excited. We're here talking about one sector of the business field that has a very real potential to bring more and better jobs to North Idaho. And that's the technology sector. So I'm excited to tell you that in studio with us today is Nick Smoot, a young man who grew up here in Coeur d'Alene and has gone on to create a very successful software app called Here On Biz, which Entrepreneur Magazine called one of the most brilliant companies in 2013. And the company was also featured in Inc. magazine as well as many others. And Here on Biz, the app is even a special amenity on Virgin Airline flights. So please, we're very happy to welcome the founder and CEO of Here on Biz, Nick Smoot. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. And I'm very interested in having you tell our listeners what is Here on Biz and how does it work?
Yeah, the application came out of an idea where my partner and I were in traveling after we had sold one company. I was in 40 states in a year. Oh, wow. And all business travel primarily. And during that time, I realized that there was kind of a disconnect from I'd be in a city and I would know 100 people that I wish I could be connecting with, but it's hard to maintain all those contacts.
Sure.
And then I'd end up being at the hotel bar at the end of the night, sitting there talking to somebody who sold socks or something and thinking, man, I'd much rather talk to one of these 100. Wouldn't it be great if there was an application that when I would land would notify all those people I was in town, and then we could start chatting and kind of set up extra meetings or look for other interesting people nearby that are also in kind of my sector of software or different mobile technologies. And so my partner and I set out to build it. And now we have a platform called iCore that we can build any of those applications on that are interest-based, location-aware social networks. And Here on Biz is that proof of concept where there's entrepreneurs all over the world landing, and then it alerts some of who's nearby, and they can chat with each other. And it's just a fun app. And in Virgin America's flights, the application is free. And when the Wi-Fi turns on, you can open up the application, and then it prompts you to join a smart group of just the people on that plane. And you can see who's on the plane and chat with them, look at their profile photo, their job history. And then you can also then toggle a button at the bottom. You can see who's in any plane in the air that's Virgin America at that time and chat with other people on those planes.
Wow. And
you can also look at the local nearby screen, and it shows you your airport destination you're heading to. So then you can start chatting with people at that airport as well.
That's amazing. The technology is just incredible, and the way that you used it because of a personal need that you felt you had.
Absolutely.
Made it really relevant right then and there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. So tell me, before we started the program, we were talking about this iCore platform, and you said you can build all kinds of other apps that off of that base. Is that the way to say it?
Yeah, no, that's a very good way to say it. It's kind of, when we set out to build it, we looked at different kind of engines or platforms that were out there that we could leverage. And nothing really accommodated the depth of, crunching of data that we wanted. And so we had to build it ourselves. And it's a very intensive database that breaks a lot, and then we have to fix and rethink and kind of go through. My partner, Alan Hartwig, has spent a lot of time looking at that database and trying to fix it. And for the most part, now we've got it down to about a 6-week effort that we can create any kind of location-aware, interest-based social network. So it could be anything from an app for craft beer drinkers. So when you travel to a new city and you could see all the different people who like craft beer as well and which pubs are in town and what's on the tap handles and chat with the owners and different people, to an application. We're actually looking at one to connect cancer patients around the world. So then you could connect with people who are at different stages and survivors, and kind of a community based on a location or interest based.
I think that's fascinating.
Thank you.
And fills a need. It could fill a need for anything from something, as you say, something as not trivial, but commonplace as a beer drinker or a cigar smoker, something as critical as a cancer patient.
Absolutely.
So, and you know, there are lots of clubs, all these clubs, car clubs, especially out of this area of the country for some reason, the collectors and the car clubs, and
absolutely.
even the Mini Cooper clubs. I mean, I could see people really getting into being able to locate their fellow Mini Cooper lovers.
Yep, so, absolutely. People are passionate about different things.
That's right. And we haven't even talked about sports yet. Okay, but what I want to know is, so you grew up here in Coeur d'Alene, and actually our son Matt, grew up with you at the same time. You were in school together. So what was that like for you to grow up here and then go away, and then now you've been back for how long?
Just started coming back to the area in September.
Oh, so not even a year yet.
Yeah, September, my wife and my kids and I, we decided we have a ton of family here and have been living away in California and found ourselves coming up here consistently and realized, do we just make a shift to where we'd go part-time here, part-time there? And we've been doing that and trying to move more towards making this more full-time here and less there. Better traffic here for sure. Yeah. But, growing up here, it was great. I think there's a lot of benefits to being in this city. I played sports and had good friends. I remember playing football on the street with 15, 20 guys and from the neighborhood that would all come out, and that's kind of a rare thing. It's kind of small town, but at the same time, it's a great life to grow up in. But I think the moments where I realized you can think about business and economics in a different perspective was always from people outside of the area, and either books that my father had me read or people I'd met or family members who worked somewhere else, and it kind of got the wheels turning of what is possible that I don't see as a norm in my own community here. And it's then going away, I think it's interesting when I remember going to New York for the first time outside of just leisure. I went there for business, and standing in a top floor of this high rise, looking out on Central Park, and in a substantial meeting in a very well known corporation, and trying to close a deal. And I'm in my mid-20s, and just this moment of kind of wide-eyed and understanding it's a very different world out there. That
boy from small town Idaho, in New York.
And just learning quickly, how the world turns in different ways, and then what's the good in that, and what's the bad in that, and how to, a lot of times I'll see in large cities just very broken, sad families, and that's people who just work their life away. Definitely not what I want, but I also don't want my family to grow up in an environment where they think a $15 an hour job is what is the ceiling for them, because that definitely is not a good ceiling for anybody to exist in. Right. It's below the poverty level, and so I think that's something we need to move away from.
Well, I agree completely, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today with you, because I heard you speak last Friday at the Downtown Rotary and was really impressed with your ideas about bringing more innovation, or not necessarily bringing it, but encouraging more innovation and championing innovation here in Coeur d'Alene, because apparently we have a lot of innovators that live in this part of the country. So you started a group called the Innovation Collective. Yeah. Talk about that a little bit. And you've had how many of the gatherings? You've had some gatherings at the White House downtown.
Yeah, quite a few now. I think I can't get the exact number in my mind, but probably like 6 around there maybe.
Okay.
And it's starting to happen more, actually, because there's multiple facets to the Innovation Collective now. But the idea started as a way to kind of showcase in the community that there is innovation here, and start connecting like minds and providing resources and opportunities and connecting people around those ideas. Because entrepreneurship is at an all-time high in the States here, to where there's a report, actually even globally, I can't remember the number, but it was easily substantially over 50%, but I can't remember the exact statistic, but that people have an idea they want to pursue and go and create some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor. And I think that's probably due to the fact that people see these wild successes out of companies that go from nothing to an idea to, $100 million exit or $1 billion exit. I think people seeing Instagram. I remember when Instagram sold and everybody immediately wanted to figure out what the next Instagram was. And now these messaging apps that are happening. And so I think with the information transfer through the web, television, internet, radio, everybody knows about these things rapidly. The cycle's speeding up quicker and quicker for transfer of information. So I think it's caused everyone to have these ideas now, what can I do? And so Innovation Collective was, when I came back, the idea that could we showcase our resources here to make Coeur d'Alene attractive for startups to come here, and can we focus those startups on a specific niche inside of innovation. So to do so, we realized we've got a decent airport. It's not the best in the world, but if you go from, I think, Minneapolis kind of down to San Diego in an arc, most of the flights in there are direct. And so you got to time them at the right time, but it's decent. Better than Bend, Oregon. Bend's, you have to drive to get to Bend.
Difficult.
But Bend is thriving with startups. And so why is that? So we can't use the airport as an excuse. And then it's beautiful here. It's low cost of living. There's a ton of capital, mental and financial capital here. We have a lot of great retirees and executives from well-known global brands that call Coeur d'Alene home. And so my thought was, could we leverage that? So we got together and started Innovation Collective, and we started with fireside chats. And the idea was, let's just interview someone who's an executive, entrepreneur, or inventor that's been successful, and serve wine and beer. And we started at the White House and went, we had like 50 people the first time, and then it grew, and 100 and 120, and then over 200, and then it's just kind of been snowball effect of people.
Are you running out of space?
Yeah, we moved from the White House because we outgrew it actually like on our third event, and we're now in the cellar, the cellar 317 on Sherman. And one of the guys we interviewed, Tom Power, actually runs that, and it's a great spot and a neat man who he runs the United States Silverman Sunshine Minting.
Yes.
And he also owns that restaurant, and said, hey, come meet in our basement. And it's not like a basement. It makes it sound awful. Sorry,
no, it used
cellar.
to be the wine cellar. It was called the wine cellar.
When I call it the basement, it sounds like some musty, dark room. It's not.
It's a
beautiful.
great little spot.
Yeah, and so we've been doing the events in there. And then we've taken the summers off for June and July, but we also have an event we've now instituted called Coffee and Concepts, and that's twice a month where we've had about 20-ish people showing up at these, and 7:30 in the morning where you come out and you share your early stage business problems or ideas, and then the group kind of helps work through those ideas together. So let's say you have an idea. One guy was sharing he has an idea for 3D printing he's been working on, but was having some problems finding a co-founder. So then the group said, well, you should talk to this person or this person, and kind of helped guide him. And it's been fun watching that group.
Where are you having that group?
That's at Java, downtown. It'll be in the new building, the new one by the White House.
Oh, yeah. It used to be
on 4th.
The Jonesies or breakfast place.
Yep.
Good.
And then we've also started a pub tech night once a month where it's just get together and grab a pint and talk tech if they want to and hang out. And that's tomorrow, actually. But we have a calendar. InnovateCDA.com is the website, and you can email through there and get put on the list or look at the calendar, all those things.
I know somebody that might be able to build an app off of this iCore base that you could contact any innovators in the area or people with new ideas.
Surprisingly, if you download the app Here on Biz, there's a good constituency of people in town here.
Is that right?
Yeah, you can chat with them and connect. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So when you're talking about the needs of innovators when they come into an area and want to set up and bring their ideas in, and how does education fit into that in terms of the community?
Yeah, education's a big piece. I think you look at any substantial center of economic development, startup culture, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. There are places with universities nearby. Universities, I would say, are notorious for tinkering with ideas and coming up with neat things, but also notorious for not being able to capitalize on the neat things, and they become stuck in the ivory tower. And so it's a good relationship to have the universities working on the neat things and having the entrepreneurs partnering with the universities to take these neat things to market and position them well. And I think that's where a lot of universities have been successful in that relationship with the startup ecosystem to offer patent portfolios or research to that community. The other thing that they do well is education in colleges, create space to meet in. They also attract young minds who want to be successful. I will not say you have to be a college graduate to be successful as an entrepreneur, because I think that would be ridiculous to say, because some of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time are not college graduates. They're dropouts or never went. But I do believe college does teach you some problem solving and how to kind of go through the process, and it's great for certain people. But having a university system and even a school system from K through 12 that supports a mission of how are we creating viable employed people, and I think that's got to be the conversation that has to be had from K through 12 and all the way through master's programs, is where are we placing them and what are they doing.
And are you familiar with the STEM Academy?
I am. I'm becoming more familiar with it as I go. There's some different folks in town that the joke around has been, I just bit the elephant, and everyone kind of was like, well, now we got to help the kid. Because it's something we talk about a lot, of job creation and tech and software.
Yeah.
And so I was either going to get sat on by the elephant or people would start helping me. And so amazingly, there's all these brilliant people in town, from if it's Jobs Plus, local government, privatized sector, people in business already, people at the state level that care deeply about these things. And so a lot of the resources are aligning quickly, which has been such a great thing to see and exciting, to where we're all in this together and no one's really competing. It's just it's fun watching as well, politically opposed individuals sitting around a table working on the same mission together. And that's where I think it's pleasant to me to see, and people talking about STEM. The STEM school has just taken off from what I know. I haven't visited it yet. I cannot wait.
Oh, yeah.
But I've heard that thing is just, it has a waiting list a mile long.
It had a waiting list of 200 and some when it opened its doors.
Goodness, that's great.
That's only been like a year and a half, 2 years. So
wow.
Yeah, but Lorna Finman and her husband Paul are just phenomenal people, and
great. And
they are brilliant, and they really understand science and technology, and they knew that was a need in this area.
Yep. So that's part of that brain trust, I think, in town. People like them.
Yes.
There's countless people. One of the things we're developing the Innovate CEA website, and a section of it that we have set up to do is to list all the local experts, and think of it as a way to think like a LinkedIn for the town.
Oh, yeah.
That you could click on there and see all the people who are proficient and not only competent but leading in certain areas, like Lorna and Paul. I mean, brilliant minds that most people don't know are here.
Exactly.
And
they're very quiet. They stay in the background, but they do a lot.
They do a ton. And I think it's important for people in Boston and in New York and Los Angeles, when they look at the city, to go, what? Those people are there? Why? Because
exactly.
it does cause, when you start realizing all the people that are here.
Why does Burt Rutan live here?
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that could choose to live anywhere, and they choose to live here because of the qualities of the community, the values of the community, and the beauty.
Yep.
So.
And everyone I've talked to of them, they always say it's something to the effect of that they get to exist in peacetime, not wartime. Yeah. And so they talk about the cities they've lived in as wartime. That every corner you turn, you're fighting traffic or people walking in the street, or it's constantly being bombarded with different issues. And here you can think, you can create, you can innovate. I joke around with many of my friends in New York. I'll take my conference call and I leave my office and I walk around Tubbs Hill. I walk back in the office after my conference call's done.
There you go. Yeah.
They're stuck in their glass box looking down at a city, and I'm looking at a lake with fresh air and activity around me.
Mm-hmm. And not overwhelming noise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
On a constant basis. So from a government standpoint, because that's certainly my focus at the moment, since I am the candidate or the nominee for the Republican Party for state Senate.
Congratulations.
Thank you, from this area, and that's a whole week old now. I really want to know what local government and also state government can do to facilitate what you're hoping will happen with all of these innovations, these different groups that you've been working with. What can government do? And one of the bottom line things that we often hear around here, and I believe as a small business owner too, sometimes the best thing government can do is get out of the way.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about it?
I agree with that. I would say getting out of the way and making it the lowest barrier to entry. A lot of cities and states have tried creating centers of entrepreneurship where there's no taxes for a period of time on these companies if they're existing in this space. I know Idaho's not a big fan of tax havens inside of a state, like a tax center where it's zones. They did institute the new subsidy, I think, coming up to 30% back. If you bring a company here and you say you're going to create so many jobs, you can get 30%.
50, yeah.
And I think that's great for recruiting large corporations, but it's not that great for startups.
No, I'm not a big fan, because small businesses are the backbone of what we do here in Idaho.
Yeah.
And so most businesses have less than 20 employees.
Absolutely. And it is great to bring big companies here, which I'm excited about that.
It is.
But I do think we need to continue to look at the small guys and figure out ways we can help them. And I think a lot of it comes down to, yes, there's going to be certain policies and structures we can do and certain things we can get out of the way. But I think that the number one thing government can do is be a champion of the small business, be a cheerleader, and not only talk it, but support it and find ways to support it and not let it be threatened. I think protect it as it is the resources it should be. I think in some cities, small businesses become endangered species due to certain corporations they allow to come in.
Well, they do. And also what happens in many cities is the new guy coming in is always the person that gets the most attention, the company that gets the most attention, and yet those that are organically growing in the area and have been there already don't get any attention at all.
Yeah, and I think it's important for the citizens and the small business and the private sector to realize if we leave it up to government to help us succeed, we won't get anywhere. And I don't say that to be bad-mouthing politics. No. I say that to the fact that they don't know. And we can't expect them to know. We can't expect them to know everything. It's our job as citizens to participate in government.
Yes.
And it's our job as the private sector to understand the mission we want to accomplish. And if we feel like we're being successful as a small business and we need help with something, ask for help. It's our own ignorant, sometimes pride, that gets in the way of talking with the local government, or we feel like it's a scary place to be, and it shouldn't be viewed that way. I think government should be viewed as a friend, and if it's not, then that's the wrong person in office, and they need to get out, and hopefully time will tell, and they'll find their way out the door on their own.
Yes. I know your time is limited, and I'm so glad that you're able to even spend this much time with us. I have kind of a cynical question for you.
Yeah.
So
that's probably the last one I got to go. I apologize.
Okay, that's fine. So we hear about these new inventions coming out of Sandpoint and all over North Idaho, and they're pretty dramatic and they're really exciting, like the solar roadways.
Absolutely.
and the printable light, LED light. So what's to keep big corporations? History's full of these inventions and things that were then bought by competitors and squashed. What's to keep that from happening to some of this new technology?
Yeah, I think that very well could happen. I think, so I will just say that. I mean, I've seen it before even. But I think there's more of a model now that the world is more connected.
Yeah.
And so it's harder for companies to be as dirty. It was a lot easier when the world wasn't as connected. Now with Twitter and with the internet in general, it's easy to just point out real big mistakes by big companies. And so if someone were to buy something that the masses liked and didn't innovate upon it appropriately, people would not put up with it. I think the other thing is these companies need to just continue to look for partners to carry the ball through the finish line, I think is a very wise step, and contractually structure it as such. And play hardball. Solar roadways, if someone wants to buy that, great. Contractually set up that they have to deliver, else you take back all the IP, and it's yours, and X% of the sale price stays. There's ways to try and be as protected as possible. But I do think I think we live in an era now where the world is almost too connected for a lot of that to happen. And then the other piece to it is, we also live in a world that's so connected. If you truly believe you can carry it through the finish line, get the funding, the capital, and carry it through the finish line yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily need these big corporations, but a lot of them do purchase now to compensate for R&D. Because a lot of R&D was done in-house back in the day, and now they're finding it's easier just to purchase companies as R&D projects and let them kind of go work out the kinks, and then they'll go buy them. But it could happen. But I think I hope it doesn't, and I hope the solar roadway guys take off. I continue to hope and see great things with Rohini and printing light, and it's here in Coeur d'Alene, at Sandpoint, in the North Idaho region.
It's amazing.
It really
and
is.
You are just an incredible story. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us. I expect we will hear a lot more of you and about what's going on in town. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, and I wish it could stay longer.
I wish you could too. Thanks, Nick.
Bye.
So we've just been talking with Nick Smoot, who is the CEO and founder of Here On Biz, as well as several other things, and we really appreciate him spending some time with us. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back. You've been listening to the Heads Up Radio Network.
Sorry, Jen, I can't make it to our coffee date today. My kids are sick again, and I have a terrible headache, and medicine just doesn't seem to help.
Seems like you guys are always sick. Have you had your house tested for mold?
Come on, Jen, you know me. I keep my house spotless. There's no mold here.
That's what I thought about our house. We had the same problems last year and called mountain mold testing. They came right out and inspected our whole house for mold.
Really? What happened?
Well, mountain mold testing took air samples, and the lab test showed that we were breathing dangerous, invisible mold. We got the mold cleaned up, and now we don't have any more wheezing, headaches, or congestion. They gave us our health back.
Mold can cause numerous health problems, including allergies, chronic headaches, asthma, and lung infections. Children, pregnant women, and the elderly are especially susceptible. Call Mountain Mold Testing at 208-660-8877. That's 208-660-8877. Online at mountainmoldtesting.com.
Avalanche Cleaning and Restoration is ready for spring. Are you? Let Avalanche get you ready for summer by making your house or business springtime clean. For all your carpet, upholstery, and window cleaning needs, even those emergency cleanups, call Avalanche. 208-762-2227. Emergency hotline 208-818-4411. Or online, avalancheclean.com. Avalanche, fast, safe, and reliable. In this world of moving commerce, your business is either moving forward or moving backwards. Make sure it moves forward. Maybe it's time we build a spot that fits your image. Blue Creative Group takes the time needed to put together a spot you want people to hear and make it a marketing tool to drive customers to your business. With the tools and experience ad agencies and radio stations lack, Blue Creative Group will score it, voice it, and produce it. And if need be, place it on radio and TV stations throughout the Northwest. Blue Creative Group lets you make your branding personal to your target audience. Be creative, be productive, while being cost-effective. Be Blue. Blue Creative Group. Creative marketing plans for the 21st century. Call today, 208-758-0546. 208-758-0546. Join Mary and her guests online and take a ride aboard the Common Sense Express.
And welcome back. We've been having just a wonderful chat. We did have a wonderful chat with Nick Smoot, who is the CEO and founder of Here On Biz, which is a software app that has been very successful, and he explained to us that that application works with LinkedIn and with other applications in order to identify people of a certain group that has something in common. It might be that they're traveling on business. That's what the Biz app is, but it can also be used for people who have another common interest. And they can see each other or are notified through this app that there are people interested in those things that are in the nearby vicinity, in the same neighborhood, in the same city. So that was a fascinating conversation because Nick has grown up in Coeur d'Alene. He's a local boy who went off to California for several years and I think was an entrepreneur and inventor even before he left Coeur d'Alene. And then he went to California, had lived down there for several years, and has recently returned, bringing his wife and his 3 little boys back to Coeur d'Alene to establish themselves here. But his business goes on, and he apparently can be anywhere doing his business, and he's got his hands in a lot of things. So a friend of mine, Don Bradway, stopped by the studio and was here to listen to Nick's conversation with us. And since Don is still here, we'll just chat and we'll just talk about what Nick was discussing. Now, Don is a recently elected precinct committeeman from Precinct 14. Is that right, Don?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So not that really connects into this, but it does in that you are now an elected official, and I am on my way to becoming an elected official. And one of the things that we talked with Nick about is how can government help? And is the best way to help invention and innovation in business? Is it the best to try to incentivize things, or is it best just to get out of the way?
When you said earlier in the interview your thoughts, mine were exactly the same thing, and that is get out of the way. Mm-hmm. Don't obfuscate. Don't throw up stumbling blocks. And I think that we see those places, those political entities that stay out of the way are going to be the ones that are going to have more success than let's take California. They're floundering in many ways because they have yet to find a tax that they don't like. And there are those, and you and I both listened to people at some of the forums that we were both involved with that said that, I want to help government. I want as government to help businesses and will grow business. And we both would look at each other and everybody else who was of our ilk, and we say, no, government doesn't grow business. Government gets in the way all too often, unless government were to do something like incentivize via lowered taxes for a while as a way to bring it in, or make it easier for businesses to come in and start a business for those startups.
Lowering regulations really makes a difference. Also, from my years on planning and zoning here in Coeur d'Alene, I know that there are a lot of hoops that business has to jump through in order to get building permits, site permits, all the rest of that, if they want to build anything. And many businesses coming in do want to start by building some facility for themselves. All of those regulations that government controls should be looked at as whether they're an essential necessity or whether they can be removed for. I think it should be for all businesses. I really do. I think we should start cutting back on a lot of these things, especially the tax levels, and that will help attract businesses. I don't know if you realize this, Don, but in one of our recent programs, I had a piece of statistic that shows, I think it was a tax institute, it's a national tax institute that does research, and it shows that all of the states that are around Idaho actually have a lower tax impact on business than we do. And here's Idaho with the reputation of being, the really conservative. Right.
Yes.
Even Washington and Oregon have a total tax impact on business that is lower than ours.
I think, in fact, you probably had mentioned that at one point, and that's a pretty cold slap in the face when, as you said, we are supposed to be this freedom state. And let's look at a couple of industries that were in the news. I'm I am involved in the shooting field and among many things. And so I keep an eye on what's going on with the Second Amendment and the battle for companies that are involved in firearms. And a good example is what happened with Magpul. They originally started off making devices for magazines. That's what holds the ammunition for firearms. And then they've grown exponentially because they are such a good business and they knew what to do. Well, they were situated in Colorado. And Colorado, in their infinite lack of wisdom, voted in a magazine ban of X number of rounds. And so Magpul said, if you do this, we will leave and we will take quite a bit of tax money with us when we go, as well as a lot of employees. And when this ban was passed, Magpul called their bluff and said, we're gone. And so they moved to Texas and Montana. And I was talking with a couple of my legislative friends and said, what can we do to get them to come to Idaho?
Right.
This is a freedom state. They need to be here. And obviously there were tax issues that Magpul said, well, now we're taking a look, and you know what? You don't measure up, but Montana and Texas do. And
that's the bottom line right there.
Yep.
That makes such a difference. So when we're talking with Don Bradway, who's a friend of mine who happened to be in studio today and is chatting with us. But earlier in the hour, we both had the pleasure of listening to Nick Smoot from the startup business, the high-tech business application called Here On Biz. And Nick is a Coeur d'Alene kid who has made big successes in the high-tech field. So when we were talking with Nick, we were talking about some other innovations that he's been helping to cheerlead for, I guess what might be a good word, through his Innovation Collective, this group that he has that gets together with these innovators. One of them is, one of the groups that they highlighted in one of their meetings is the group that the company, I don't know if I'm saying this right, pronouncing it Rohini, but it's Cody Peterson and Andrew Huska, and they have invented printable 3D printable light, which is incredible. And it is printed out like on some sort of substance that looks like paper. I'm sure it's something else, and can be used. It becomes light then. There are no filaments. There are no, let me see. No bulbs, no filaments. It's printable light. And
it's magic.
It appears to be magic, just like. And another innovator in our area, these people are in Coeur d'Alene, and the Solar Roadways people are in Sandpoint, and they're getting a lot of PR now. They had a video that went viral on YouTube. I was watching it. I know the producers here were crazy about it. And they are talking about putting they have these solar panels that they cover with some sort of a top treatment that allows the light to get through but is protective and very, very sturdy. And how brilliant is it
Absolutely.
to consider that roadways and sidewalks and parking lots, these large flat surfaces that bake in the sun all the time, are the appropriate place for us to collect energy. And they melt snow, our producer just said in my ear, which exactly, I mean, that's brilliant. So
I want one of those on my driveway and my walkway.
Yes.
There we go.
Well, and I do think that people with substantial amounts of money like you, Don, would probably be able to be some of the first to put them in. Just think you could have the first solar driveway in your neighborhood.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
No more worry about slipping on the ice.
That's right.
Of course, I'd have to have floodlights on at night to keep it melted. So first thing in the morning before the sun comes up and gets it going. So
no. The LED lights in it keep it melted. Yes.
Oh.
And it stays lit.
So I've got a lighted walkway all night. Oh, it's even sounding even better.
Now, I do know a friend of mine who's very environmental who will instantly say that's light pollution, so that we shouldn't have so much light all the time. But anyway, I'm sure there are a few downsides to it, but it's an interesting concept. And It's real. It's not magic. It's real, and
it's still
happening.
magic, but magic is real, right?
It's happening in Idaho.
And
it's happening right
part.
here.
Yeah. That is the best part, that is happening right here.
But how do we keep them here?
Well, that's going to be the trick, and that's where those who are recently elected to the legislature, or are most likely going to be elected to the legislature, can make a difference, because you bring that passion to Boise and you say, look, this is what we need to do. We've got incredible opportunities for innovation and companies that want to be here, but let's not drive them away.
Right.
And I think that's something that I know you will champion, because you understand that.
Yes.
And so that's what we need to do, is get others thinking along the same lines, and quit thinking about business as being the tap to go to all the time. We need some more money, so it's a tax, and they'll just pass it on to their customers or their clients or whom, and eventually going to say, no, we're not going to do, because we can only do so much, we can only charge so much, so we're going to move out of here and go find a state that doesn't look at us as a cash cow. And I think if we can get that mindset changed, we could certainly make a difference here in this state. I would love to see that happen.
And so that we can keep the innovators that are here,
right,
and we can attract more.
And that's going to be the thing, is attracting more, so that they say, yes, we want to go to a friendly state so we can grow, we can create things. And
the job market will be so helped by this kind of thing, because if these high-tech jobs, whether it's in robotics or it's in these kinds of solar areas, if they can come here to Idaho, that will offer our constituents, our people, that our citizens, an opportunity to apply for these jobs, get their skills in order, and get the jobs that will pay career level. They're career level jobs. These are not minimum wage entry level jobs. These are serious jobs that people can have good lives and have their futures solid.
Right.
Not have to worry. And that's really what we need. And I did think it was important that Nick Smoot, who we were talking to earlier from Here On Biz and also the Innovation Collective, was talking about the need for education, and that we really do need to improve especially our K through 12 education in terms of science and technology abilities. But also he said that you don't necessarily have to have a college degree to be an entrepreneur, and we all know those stories, like Steve Jobs and even Bill Gates and his I've forgotten the technology guy who was with him. It'll come to me in a minute. That started Microsoft together. Paul Allen.
Right.
Paul Allen, Bill Gates, and even Nick. Nick said in his speech on Friday at Rotary, he said that he went to college for 6 months and could not stand it, and he left because he had all these ideas and he just wanted to make them happen, not have that limitation. I'm a college person. I love college. All our kids have gone through. So I think that there's a pathway for everyone, and it doesn't have to be the same. It does not have to be the same. And once we get out of the mindset of saying you've got to have that parchment, no. My older son he lives in California, unfortunately, but he works at the gas company down there, and he's doing very, very well. And he told me years ago, Dad, I need to be out doing things and not stuck in a classroom. This is not for me. And he's doing just great stuff. And he did not have to have that degree. And now in North Idaho, we have the opportunity now to really focus. In fact, I was just listening or reading about the NIC trustee workshop that was yesterday, and how they're talking about the PTE, the Professional Technical Education building that they're going to be putting together. They've been talking about it for some time, and now they're down to I think at the very next meeting next month, they will be making a final decision about the location of it. But it's on the way. It's going to happen. They're going to be expanding that program desperately needed. That technical education is desperately needed, and K-Tech is just doing a great job as a high school option for that.
Right.
And then we have the STEM Academy, which is fabulous, out in Rathdrum, and that's a charter school. So we've got it's finally coming around, that innovation and that move toward the science and technology industry here in our part of North Idaho.
And along with that, we have to remember that we still need plumbers, we still need carpenters,
absolutely.
we still need mechanics, and we are seeing that we don't have enough of those people, and because the focus has been, well, you got to have that degree. And I was joking with somebody the other day about going to school. Well, I've got a bachelor's, I've got a master's, and I got a PhD. Do you want fries with that order? Because what are they doing with that? Whereas if you have a skill,
yes,
that you will always be able to do something with that. And we don't teach that. You know, the wood shop. When I went to junior high school, we had auto shop, we had wood shop, we had metal shop, we had drafting, and those were things that you could do. And now, how many schools, they don't have any of those things around. And so we have children who have never been introduced to those, and there might be a lot of opportunity. In fact, I know there's a lot of opportunity being missed because those kids have not been introduced to those unless their parental units happen to like those or they're involved in something else. So I wanted to say something about what Nick was doing with these groups that he gets together.
Yes.
Those, talk about a brain trust, just the opportunity to exchange ideas. And I think that when you were talking about, well, somebody said, well, I need to find somebody who has this, and go talk to them. But you're doing it face to face, sitting there having coffee or wine or whatever, and you get a chance to meet these people, as opposed to doing it over Facebook or something like that. You're doing it live, and you have the opportunity to just instantaneously get things off and running. That when I remember reading about it in the press when they interviewed Nick about this a couple of months ago, and I thought, what a tremendous idea. There's a wealth of knowledge out there if we can just put all these people together. I applaud him for doing that. He's just a good man. You know,
a lot of people in the technology field are very techie and very involved in just the numbers and the whatever it takes to make the software work. And Nick is such a refreshing personality.
Yes.
Because he's a people person.
Very much so.
And so I'm sure that, that he and his partner are a great team because he is the outreach person, he's the relationship person, and you can just see that he has that talent.
He is. When we had a chance to speak before you went on air, I've been looking forward to meeting him at some point because I know his parents, and to the serendipity of him being here at the same time I am. I was delighted, and to speak with him was wonderful because he's the kind of person I would love to sit down for a couple hours and just chat with him. He is so knowledgeable and a real delight to speak with, and he's got such real world knowledge and things that can be done with that knowledge, and just it was great.
At such a young age, because he's only 31, and I know that because he's the same age as our second son went to school with him here at Lake City High School, so they were in the same class. And there are kids that are doing so many interesting things. It's wonderful to see. And Nick is just a great example of that. But there are many more. And I think that here in Coeur d'Alene, one of the things I was going to say to Nick, and it just we didn't work the conversation around, but we got close to it. And it was, what's the difference between growing up in a small town like this, and then, then you find yourself in New York or wherever. But what I think it really offers the young people who grow up here a real advantage because they can build their confidence level because they actually can get on an athletic team, because they can be part of the student council, because they can do things that they try to do, where in huge cities, in huge schools, you almost never can do that. I mean, it's such a select few that ever get picked for those things, and the majority of the students never seem to have a chance. That's an excellent point. And I wonder how many people truly understand that and realize the blessings that they've had for being in a, quote, small town. So we're talking to Don Bradway, who's a friend of mine who happened to be here today in studio, and we've been talking, Don and I, about Nick Smoot, who was our guest for the first half hour of the program. And Nick is a local Coeur d'Alene guy who grew up well here and went off to California and invented a very highly successful software app called Here On Biz. And he's done a lot of other things too. So they are off and running, he and his partner. And Nick also has a wife and 3 little boys, and they've recently moved back, relocated almost full-time to Coeur d'Alene. So we look forward to the influx of some of our young talent coming back into the area if we as a community can set things up properly. So I appreciate that. Where are we with time? Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a really quick break. We've got about 10 minutes left in our show, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap this up. Thank you. And you have been listening to the Common Sense Express on the Heads Up Radio Network.
Avalanche Cleaning and Restoration is ready for spring. Are you? Let Avalanche get you ready for summer by making your house or business springtime clean. For all your carpet, upholstery, and window cleaning needs, even those emergency cleanups, call Avalanche. 208-762-2227. Emergency hotline 208-818-4411. Or online, avalancheclean.com. Avalanche, fast, safe, and reliable. Looking for something different to do tonight? Thinking of a restaurant that you haven't been to for a while, or a place to take the kids out for a fun night? Ever find yourself in this situation? This is a question that prompted publisher Jeanette Dunn to create Idaho Cuisine and Spokane Sizzle dining and entertainment guides. And it just keeps getting better with their pocket guides, online editions, and now online local restaurant finder at sizzleandcuisine.com. Also find local wineries, breweries, distilleries, great recipes from local chefs, hot spots and cool happenings, and chances to vote for your favorites. Be in the know about local happenings when you sign up for the Sizzlin' Cuisine e-News, delivered to your desktop weekly, and be eligible to win a free dinner for 2. You've always enjoyed reading the magazines. Now it's easy to flip through them online too. Makes it easy to find restaurants that offer great menus prepared by experienced staffs who really care to serve you the best in local cuisine. Spokane Sizzle and Idaho Cuisine are online at sizzleandcuisine.com. We do the footwork to make it easy for you to find just what you're looking for. Join Mary and her guests online and take a ride aboard the Common Sense Express.
Welcome back. We are talking today about innovation and jobs and job creation here in North Idaho, and I'm chatting with my friend Don Bradway, who's just stopped by the studio today to visit, and Don was here at the same time I was interviewing Nick Smoot, who is a young man, grew up in Coeur d'Alene. He's in his early 30s, and he has already started and sold a couple of businesses, and it has now a very successful software application called Here On Biz. Here On Biz. It's an application that you can buy in the Apple Store, and it, how can I say this succinctly? It works with LinkedIn, but it doesn't have to work with LinkedIn, and it helps identify people of like-minded interests that are in the area. Would you say that's a good way to put it, Don?
But they're people that you know or you have some relationship in some fashion. I think the example he used is one that made my heart pound, was talking about cigar smokers. So
it could be,
right.
Yes.
If on your profile that you filled out on this thing, it says you're a cigar smoker and you went to such and such a school and you enjoy shooting or something like that, then when you arrived in a particular place and you activated the app, it would go out and find those people in the area that had like interests. And one of the things that you and I both sort of keyed in on was, well, does the world know all about this? And Nick answered that right off the get-go and said, no, everything is it's very private. Encrypted. Yeah. And so it's all done with numbers and letters and that type of thing. So that was my biggest concern. And so, if you and I were both to land in the same city and we both had the app and we both involved in politics, then it would say, that these two numbers, this number and this number and that type of thing. And so you have the opportunity to get together to discuss whatever it is. You're on a layover or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So you could
or
do that.
Not if you didn't want to, right? So
or if you didn't want to, right? But at least you gave that opportunity, and so it's a tremendous idea.
It's a tremendous idea, and in this world of NSA, snooping on all of us, and the total lack of privacy, we seem to have become aware that we have no privacy on anything anymore. This was an interesting, when I was doing some research and reading about it before the interview with Nick Smoot today, I was thinking to myself, is this going to be a concern for privacy issues?
Right.
But he allayed those. I think he told us that before the interview actually started. So
right.
I'm glad we're saying that on the air because he did assure us that privacy, everything is encrypted and everyone's identity is simply a series of numbers and letters.
Right. So. And I was pleased that they recognized right off the get-go that this was going to be very, very important to people.
Yes.
So that, when he was describing the whole app, it was just astounding to hear what could be done. And when you stop and think about the amount of information that you've made public through Facebook and LinkedIn, and if you want the public to know about it, this app has a way to gather. When he started naming off the various locations that it would look at, that there might be something very obscure in your past that you're proud of, but it's who knows. And you arrive someplace or you activate it and you find out that somebody else has the same interest and they're in the next building over or something. It was
you went to the same high school 40 years ago.
Exactly.
Right? So he did say something to us before his interview. He was chatting. When we were chatting, he said that once you open this database and sign in, that they get like more than 1 million data points. He called them data points on people. So it's just an instant kind of connection with all of these various
I'd be in trouble
details.
given the amount of time I enjoy on Facebook.
Well, I think that the point of the interview and the point of our discussion today has been centering around inventions, innovations, and how we can help move these things forward as a way to create job situations bring in and attract businesses and innovators that will create job opportunities for the people who live here. Good jobs, because the tech jobs, the robotics jobs are good jobs, and they're solid and they pay well, and they don't. They are something that people can study for, they can prepare themselves for, and then be in that skilled labor force. I just think it will be a wonder for Idaho if we can do this. Hang on to those that we have.
That's right.
The companies that we have, and then prepare for trying to lower our taxes and our regulations and attract businesses to move here.
And keep them here in the United States as opposed to sending them offshore. And if we could do that, that's all the better for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. And so we are hopeful. We're hopeful with some changes in this local government, and Don is a precinct committeeman.
Yes.
I always want to say.
It seems like kind of an antiquated term, but that's what they use.
For precinct 14, and I will I have a good chance of going down to the legislature in January to be part of the next session. We'll see. November still is a little ways away, but I think my chances are pretty good there.
And we're going to ensure that.
We'll work hard at it. So as we come up on the end of this program, I just want you to all remember that it is the government that can help, but the way that they can help is to get out of the way. And that means lowering the tax impacts and reducing the regulations and trying to incentivize people to be able to come together and talk and see what we can all come up with together. So I think Nick was a wonderful example of how things can be put together in order to create innovation and cheerlead innovation. And I will leave you all with this quote from Steve Jobs, who has recently died, but you know that he was the instigator and founder of Apple, and just a tremendous innovator himself. He said, and this is a very short quote, "Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower." And I think we in Idaho can be a leader if we put our minds to it. So thank you for listening. I'm Mary Souza, and you've been listening to Don Bradway and I talk on the Common Sense Express on the Heads Up Radio Network. Have a great afternoon.
The views, opinions, and conclusions expressed in this broadcast are those of the host and their guests, and not necessarily those of Heads Up Radio. The host and guest are solely responsible for all content. Support of Heads Up Radio's audio stream comes from people like you. Join the thousands that make independent radio stations like Heads Up Radio available to the public and your community. Please donate today.